Can't believe it. I'm doing another video about Elon Musk. You must think there's some baby reindeer situation going on here. 2 videos about the same guy in a month. You think I'm obsessed. I'm like one of those high school girlfriends that just keeps stalking popular kid around. But I've got to do a video on this because we're now in a world where people are currently debating whether a Nazi salute is justified. Whether it's okay to do a Nazi salute. I think there's some things that are just beyond, opinion. I think there are some things that, well, are not technically fact, are just, objective realities. And one of them is that the Nazis were one of the most horrific and horrendous things that ever happened. Now, if you somehow miss what has happened, I'll catch you up. So 2 days ago was, of course, the inauguration of Donald J. Trump, as he became the 57th President of the United States. There was a star-studded lineup of really bad singers, and Carrie Underwood, who had an absolute meltdown and a howler, but that wasn't the relevant part. And we saw Trump make a big speech and enact 15 initial policies, which we'll get back to them later. But the main selling point and the main story was that Elon Musk, in shocking fashion, decided to not once but twice do the famous Nazi salute. To the crowd. Now, when I first saw this, my original view was that it seemed accidental, or that surely he wouldn't do that, mean to do that, and it was just a really not very thought out reaction to the amazing support that he got in the room. But when you dive deeper and you look at the facts and you look at a lot more context surrounding it, it looks worse, it looks sinister, and it looks, frankly, scary. In recent months, we've seen Elon Musk, as I talked about in my last video, go after different governments and calling for them to be better, and in all cases supporting the most far-right party that these countries had to offer. We saw this in Italy, we saw this with England, and most notably, and relevant to this, we saw him support the most far-right party in Germany, a party that was born off the ashes of the Nazis and has some neo-Nazi ideologies incorporated. And we saw Elon absolutely praise the leader of this party and kind of celebrate them. Now, I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that Elon holds Nazi views, and that'd be a lunacy speculation, but it does look bad when you're openly supporting a party born off of the Nazis, and now you're doing the Nazi salute. Now, somehow people have defended this. I feel like it comes a point when, and this happens on both sides, by the way. I'm not just saying this is a right-wing thing. This is on the left as well, where you get so far in your ideology and you get so far standing and fighting for your belief that you, at some point, you have to defend the indefensible. At some point, you're truly 100% on one side. You've got to defend lunacy, and you can't be objective, and you lose sight of reality because you're basically supporting and talking absolute nonsense when the reality is the other side are right for once, and that conceding and that shows actual meaningful discussion. But in this case, you see people going up there to defend this, and I've heard 3 main defences of what Elon Musk did. Now, let's get it out the way, the theory that this was just intentional and that he didn't mean this. Now, we've already talked about the context behind his supporting of that German party, but there's more to this. One of the key things that I was wondering about this was how would Elon Musk react to all this backlash, and it's been complete radio silence so far. There's been no clarification or apology of him stating, sorry if I did something that upset so many people, I didn't intend it in that way. There's been none of that, so why did he not? Also, if you watch the clip, not only the fact that he does it twice is a big deal maker, it's a coincidence, twice a pattern, you know what I mean, but it's also the fact that when he speaks, it feels as if it was planned. It seems like he's stuttering, he's kind of delivering, and you can analyse his body language and delivery to the point, but you're never going to truly know, are you, what he intended. But whether he planned it beforehand or he did that in the moment, it's clear. he knew what he was doing. You can tell, because if he didn't know what he was doing and he genuinely made a mistake, then he would have responded, at least put his hands up and said, I didn't intend to do that, I got carried away. Now, the three main defences that I've heard, the first one, he wasn't doing the Nazi salute, he was doing a Roman salute. I find that mental, and I'll tell you why. Because it's the worst argument I've probably ever heard. Because, yes, the Roman salute may look similar to that of the Nazi salute, but the reality is the Nazis took a lot of things that were already in society and pop culture and made them their own and Nazified them. Made notably, of course, the swastika, which before had meanings of peace and had way different meanings to that of the ideology of the Nazis. But if you went out shopping costume with the swastika on it, you wouldn't really make it down the road, would you? Bloody hell, with Barry, like Tesco, is bloody sporting a swastika gear, you're probably going to question him, aren't you? And he's probably not going to last. And in Germany, you'd probably go straight to jail. And Elon, in fact, would have been arrested in Germany for what he did on that stage, because it was undeniable what he did. But now the second defence is that people are bringing Elon's disability or autism into this. Now, I find this quite interesting. And to give you the view of someone on the spectrum, never in my life has I had a stim that involved doing the Nazi salute. Now, maybe this is an actual stim that Elon has that he can't control, but I would perhaps suggest that he goes to a therapy and he sort of finds a way to find a more healthy stim that isn't so upsetting to so many people. If this is genuinely how Elon reacts in moments of triumph and celebration, then I feel like this would have been brought up by now and someone would have questioned him on it and made sure that he didn't do this humiliating thing. It's the silliest thing. And you could say, oh, it was just in a moment, he got carried away. But one of the most intelligent people on the planet, whether you like him or not, because he's made the money that he has. He's not stupid enough, you'd think, to do one of the most hated gestures of all time. It's the worst defence that he got carried away or that he was stimming. I can't believe what you're reading. It's defending the indefensible. And the third defence I've heard, and it's not even a defence, it's mainly just the most far right laughing at this and saying that he's owning the liberals and that he's given a middle finger to all of the people that called him and Trump and compared them to the Nazis. And of course the Trump-Hitler comparison has been one that's been done by certain members on the left for a few years now, comparing the rhetoric and the way in which Trump speaks and the way in which he conducts himself, and similar to that of the Nazis. Of course, it'd be lunacy to even compare the two, because one is a dictator that killed millions and the other is just a felon. Except, at least Hitler went to jail, but that was that. This argument that he was owning the liberals and that he was giving a middle finger to all the people that criticised them and called them Nazis, but that isn't responsible. You're at an inauguration, you're at a moment when you're trying to shape and you're doing playground art. You said we were this, we're going to do that. So to prove that we're not Nazis, we're going to do a Nazi symbol after I previously supported a far-right German party. It's absolute insanity, that defence. Sad thing about all of this, and what I want to garner attention to, is the fact of this being the top story from the inauguration, or from the fallout of Trump officially becoming president. Now, of course, Trump enacted his 15 immediate laws, which nowhere in these laws did you see anything about improving the prices of food and improving the economy or improving housing or anything like that. Instead, you saw him dive into the very politics that he hates, identity politics, where he's saying things like, that there's only two genders now, when scientifically, of course, there's three with the existence of intersex, but instead of doing something major, he's focusing on a small percentage of people that aren't doing anything to him. Is quite lunacy. He also is just persistently denying reality with his, of course, pulling out with anything to do with climate change, when all of the world's leading experts and scientists are pointing towards one direction. But of course Donald Trump, with his infinite wisdom and knowledge of climate, is of course an expert in all of that. And of course pulling America out of the World Health Organization, which was just a foolish thing. Trump also brought back the death penalty as well, and is quite absurd and strict border control, where there's going to be an absolute bloodbath of spreading families apart, where he's gone from saying he's going to deport just the legal immigrants who are committing crimes and are actual genuine threats, to saying that he's going to get rid of all of them, which is a inherently bad decision economically, but that's a whole other debate. But people are not talking about these things. People are not talking about these more major issues. People are talking about a offensive hand gesture that Musk did. And that's why I believe that the whole thing was intentional. And I know that goes into conspiracy theory stuff, and it's up for interpretation whether you believe that he meant it or that there was a plan here. But he did it, and he got away with it. And he's going to get away with it. And he's not going to fall in fan base. He's not going to fall in notoriety. This is going to have minimalist impact on his career completely. And that is the worst part. That we live in a world where some people are above the law. Some people have more power than the law. And I think Elon demonstrated that. And the lack of even an apology is just appalling. So, yeah, well, next week I'm talking about a Disney film. That should be a bit more nice and light-hearted. And say if you disagree with me, please comment your views and argue, but I really don't want to defend a Nazi salute. If you've got another reason why Elon could have possibly done it, and you've got an explanation that maybe I haven't seen, I'd love to understand it. And of course a lot of this is subjective, and there is a lot of subjective stuff here, but I'd love to see your point. But I think the overarching thing here is that I think ideology goes to a point where you have to defend the indefensible, and that is what we are seeing.